come on in, pull up a chair and take a load off, because today I'll be paging through and reviewing Coriolis, the Last Cyclade from Free League Publishing. Is this the second part of an epic science fiction campaign sure to blow your mind? Or is this simply a railroad which will lead to a finale, leaving your players feeling unsatisfied? Well, you're going to find out right after this. Howdy, gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, today I'm going to page through and review Coriolis, the Last Cyclade, which is from Free League Publishing. It is part 2 of the epic Mercy of the Icons campaign, written by Ricard and Troya, with artwork provided by Martin Grip and Gustav Ekelund. This 240-page hardcover is available for $39.99. You can snag it in PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. A couple of things to mention before we jump on into the review. If you are not familiar with the Gaming Gang, keep in mind that we are affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit, say, DriveThruRPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first, click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also want to mention the fine folks over at Free League Publishing were kind enough to send me this review copy of The Last Cyclade, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share my thoughts with you about this book. It's important that you know that. All right, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here we have Coriolis, the Last Cyclade, part 2 of the Mercy of the Icons campaign. So this is going to be spoiler-free, and it's going to be a little difficult to provide this completely spoiler-free. I am not going to page through every single page, but I do want to show off the book, because the production quality, as always, from Free League is fantastic. There is very, very cool artwork. There's a lot to like about this book and this campaign. And then there are some problems as well, and I will discuss that at the end of the video. But once again, I'm going to try to stay spoiler-free. If you are a player hoping that your game master is going to run The Last Cyclade, I would definitely recommend maybe jumping ahead to my final thoughts, or maybe even tuning out completely, because you might see some things that will spoil the adventure for you. Do want to point that out. I'm not even going to show the back of the book, because the back of the book actually talks about what happened in the Lost Emissary, or I should say Emissary Lost adventure book, which is the first part of this 3-part campaign. So let's jump on in, and I will start showing the book off. As I mentioned, artwork throughout, everything is just really nicely presented, as everything we've seen from Coriolis to this point. And got to be honest, just about everything from Free League Publishing is really top-notch production quality. So we're going to jump through. I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit. So the game master and the players have an option where you don't need to have picked up Emissary Lost to run these adventures. I certainly do recommend it, because for one, it's going to have your players with much more investment into this system, into this whole storyline. And I got to say, outside of some railroad issues in the first adventure book, it's pretty cool. I thought it was very nicely done. we got those problems with this as well. So we're going to start off. We jump into the first part of this book. So essentially, this book is broken down into an introductory adventure, which is actually pretty long. It's about 80 pages in length. Then it's going to follow up with some mini adventures as well as random tables for you to utilize to create mini adventures. So we'll get 4 example mini adventures, and then the final section is the finale of this adventure book. And I got to point out, it is a huge, epic finale. It is pretty wild, but we will discuss that in just a few moments. So we're going to kind of zip in here. So essentially, if the players have already played Emissary Lost, it's going to pick up right from the end of that adventure book. So, like I said, I'm going to stay spoiler free, but the player characters are in possession of a piece of information that a lot of different factions are interested in obtaining. So if you are not overly familiar with Coriolis, the Third Horizon, which is the core book, the core system book, Coriolis is this huge space station. And the Third Horizon is, I'll jump back to the map here in the front. This is the Third Horizon. So the Third Horizon is actually a series of star systems that are kind of loosely in a confederation. Now, there's references to the First Horizon and Second Horizon and wars that were fought between the First and Second Horizon. Essentially what those were just other conglomerates of star systems. It's the easiest way for me to kind of put that together. One of the aspects I really like about Coriolis is that you don't have any mustache twirling villain factions. There are a lot of factions, which is very cool. Everybody has their own motives. Some are obvious, some are not. Some are very secret agendas. But you don't have anybody who's just the big bads. That does sort of change in this adventure book. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I like the fact that in Coriolis, your player characters are not always going to be assumed to be the white hat good guys and gals. There are various shades of gray, and the characters could be on the evil side if they'd like. So that is kind of cool. If you're, once again, not overly familiar with Coriolis, this is a science fiction game that's got kind of a Middle Eastern vibe to it. Not overwhelming. It's not going to bury you as you're like feeling like, well, is this all just, this game book should be in Arabic or something like that? No, absolutely not. But it's got this cool, I know a lot of people have referred to it as the Arabian Nights in space. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it is actually a very cool setting. I really dig the setting. So what's going to happen here is the player characters are going to have opportunities to make a deal for the information that they've got. And they've got different patrons that are available to them to help them. You've got other factions who are going to be sitting there trying to hinder the player characters as well. So pretty nicely done. One aspect of this is that this is a very cinematic game. Coriolis is a very cinematic game. Everything plays out in scenes. So if you are used to sandbox environments, Coriolis is a bit different. So saying that, there is a bit of a railroad that goes on as far as the introductory adventure in the Last Cyclade. It's a railroad. And I have said before, I have run Call of Cthulhu for decades. And let's be honest, a horror role-playing game, you need to railroad players sometimes. There are ways for you to go about it that it doesn't feel like you're railroading the players. but it has to be done. You don't find too many completely sandbox horror games that people are like, wow, that was a hell of an adventure. Not usually. So there is that has to be mentioned. Also, because this is cinematic, everything plays out in scenes. You will go from scene to scene, kind of like point to point throughout the adventure as well, at least in the first section as well as the third section. So just kind of zipping through here. This, I got to say, the whole plot line of what's going on here is cool. It is very cool. The first part of this second portion of the campaign plays out in 3 acts. The final portion of this book also plays out in 3 acts. And then we get into the Cyclade dance, which is, these are where the mini adventures are. This is where we've got some of those random tables that you can utilize. There's a mission generator. All right, so here is, this is the emerald disc that the players are in possession of. So we've got talk about different patrons. This is our mission generator here. Once again, very, very cool artwork. Definitely like the artwork throughout. I think this is a cool setting. Unfortunately, so far with this adventure campaign, it's kind of like a meta plot. And we'll talk about that when we get to my final thoughts. But as you can see, very, very cool, very striking artwork throughout. All right, so about 100 pages is devoted to the various different mini adventures. And as I mentioned before, you will have 4 examples of mini adventures that you can utilize, or just use, if you're the game master, of course, you can use those as kind of frameworks, kind of skeletons of how to build your own adventures as well. There is loads and loads of background information about the Third Horizon in this book, just like we had in Emissary Lost. So once again, very, very cool. So we're going to jump ahead and we're going to get to the finale. So this is actually the shortest portion of the book. There's tons going on in here, though. And this is where we see earlier in this adventure book, we'll see an emerging kind of black hat faction, the big bad faction. And the player characters are investigating. They're trying to learn more. They're trying to actually stop them from some of their nefarious plans. And then we get to the finale here, and we're back to Coriolis. So one aspect of this adventure book that's pretty cool is it expands out into other planets of the Third Horizon. In the first book, in Emissary Lost, it focused mainly around Coriolis, the space station, as well as the planet that the space station, I don't want to say hovers over, but is located near. And it's pronounced Hue or Hue. It's like H-A-U. So here, this actually branches out, and the player characters find themselves all over the Third Horizon. And what's going to happen here at the end of this adventure book is a cataclysmic event. It is a huge event. It is going to shake the entire Third Horizon. And I think that's very, very cool, except for the fact that the player characters have to stay on kind of the periphery of what's going on. Because if they're down and dirty in the events that are taking place, the player characters are going to be killed. There's no getting around it. There's aspects to this adventure where you could probably plot things or create things a little bit differently. But still, when we get to the end, the players are going to feel like they're just kind of watching things take place, as opposed to being in the heart of the action, which is normally how most role players enjoy playing a game. They want to be, they want to be the heroes or villains of the story. They want to be the main characters. And at the end of this second part of the Mercy of the Icons campaign, that doesn't happen. And that's kind of disappointing, because what ends up happening at the end of this book is a massive shift in power in the Third Horizon. It's, like I said, it's very epic. It's one of the most epic campaigns that I have encountered, especially a science fiction campaign as well. So that is Coriolis, The Last Cyclade. Let's swing over to the other camera. I'm going to provide some final thoughts as well as my review score. This is a really tough book as far as giving a review score for. And I'll tell you why. As I mentioned previously, I really do think Coriolis is a very cool setting. The actual rules, it's not super crunchy, so it's pretty easy for game masters of all stripes to get locked in on. Only problem that I've encountered is with the first two books of this trilogy, it's just a lot of railroading the players to certain points. So in this, the first portion of it is just, and the players can go about trying to do different things. It's just they're going to all end up in the same spot. It like all roads lead to one location. And then we get the portion where it's kind of sandbox, and you're actually supposed to make sure that you have a bunch of these mini adventures take place so that a period of time expires before the finale. You're not going to, everything's not just linear where you're going just A, B, C. B has a lot of sub steps to it. So a bunch of time is supposed to pass because a lot of things are happening within the Third Horizon. Then we get to the finale, and once again, the player characters are going to end up feeling like they've been sidelined to the big event, and that whatever they've done up to this point really doesn't matter. At least that's how I see some players would react to it. Others might be like, wow, that's cool. This is fantastic. Oh man, the story, holy cow. Which, like I said before, I think this whole storyline is very, very cool. Only problem is that it's like a big meta plot. And this has been a problem with some role-playing games over the years. Vampire the Masquerade and a lot of the other World of Darkness. Torg was another great example of this. Torg Eternity, in some ways, is an example of this as well, where perfect example, Dragonlance for Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of people, they love the novels. They remember the novels. Wow, they were so good. The actual adventures, outside of maybe the first one or two, not so great, because it became the player characters are just kind of almost like NPCs in the main storyline. That kind of happens here as well. Like I said, this is a tough game book to review because everybody's mileage is going to vary. Some people, they don't care if it's, okay, whatever. We're getting railroaded into this and that. And, the decisions we make really don't matter in the great scheme of things. I don't care. We're having a blast playing this. I feel like I'm playing a novel. Well, other people will be like, how dare you force me to have to do this? Overall, I love the system. I think the setting is very cool. I like the story a lot. It's just, I feel that game masters and players' hands are going to be tied a bit. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I give Coriolis The Last Cyclade a 7 out of 10. I think it's worth picking up. I think really good game masters can make adjustments to this so that it doesn't feel like a complete railroad. Others may not. So kind of disappointing. But like I said, I think it's very cool, the story. It's just, maybe it's because there's a single author to this and they have a singular vision, which, like I said, it's pretty awesome. But once again, it's a single author and it's kind of like my way or the highway, sort of. Anyway, once again, Coriolis, The Last Cyclade, is available from Free League Publishing. This hardcover does carry an MSRP of $39.99. You can pick it up in PDF over at DriveThruRPG for $19.99. All right, I should point out, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell, because it'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this review, it'll also let you know when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday through Thursday nights, as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news right here on YouTube. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for taking time to watch the video. And as I wrap up all of my videos during this never-ending pandemic, I certainly hope all of you out there are being smart and staying safe. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, if you haven't subscribed to the Gaming Gang channel yet, click right here. If you'd like to see the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, click right up there. And if you want to trust YouTube's algorithm to give you something to watch, click right there. Once again, thanks so much for watching, and everybody please wear a mask.